Okay, we're going to call to order. If everybody can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call to the community. This is the time for citizens who would like to address City Council, the RPG Commission, on any non-agenda item. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to asking staff to review the matter, asking that the matter be put on a future agenda, or responding to criticism. Do we have anyone for a call to the community?
We did not.
Okay. Response to call to the community. There were no requests to speak during the November 10th, 2022 regular meeting. Business. Approval of minutes. Presenter Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. Commissioners, the minutes are in your agenda packet. If you need a moment to review them, please take it, and I will defer to you guys.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. I'll second.
Does anybody have any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
That's your pen.
I got one.
Thank you.
I have a red one.
How did you know? We're going to bypass the second item under business as a result of not having enough information to base the discussion around. So we're going to move on to C, possible landscaping opportunities within the city. Presenter, Christopher Gertz, RPG Commissioner.
Hi, thanks. So last time we met, we talked about the duties of the commission and some of the things that we ought to be taking a look at. And this was one item that came up as we were discussing what could we do to improve the look of the city overall. And I wanted to put forth that perhaps we take an opportunity to go throughout the community and try to identify spaces that are under the city's control. And I'll get to that. And so I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. What I've understood from past conversations that are either sparse or are missing things. So there's two kinds of areas in particular that I'm thinking about. Just spaces that are pretty much empty. And the one I can think of is Serrano Drive. So right between the path that comes out of the rec center, that path is pretty good, but there's a little triangle patch that, as best I can tell, the city property that has a little rock garden.
I love that.
Yeah, but otherwise pretty sparse. So I'm not saying that has to go,
yeah.
But it's generally a big empty space. There's another one between Villanueva and Camelback, and I know that's more complicated because of the wall project that might be happening. But there's areas like that. And then there's the areas between the sidewalk and the curb, which over the years, I think the city may have filled in some areas, or residents are, I believe, mostly responsible for them. So this is where I'd like to get a little clarity maybe from staff on help us understand, if we want to do this, what's in scope and how we can tell. For the empty lots, the assessor's website, I assume, is rather accurate. We can go there and see, the owner is Litchfield Park. Okay, great. Like, that's in our control. But for these little, I don't know if they're easements or what we would call them, where in some of them there's pea gravel maybe, in others there's just been dirt for, a better part of a decade at this point. Is there something we can do there? And if they are in our control, if there's we'll call it a missing pattern of palm tree, orange tree, we want to identify those things as kinds of opportunities. So I wanted to put that out there before we make a motion of, is that something you guys would want to go do? Print out a map, take an inventory of it. I think there's an opportunity here. We can come together for maybe a working session to identify them and then raise them to staff, and you guys could come back with, well, that's not feasible, or yeah, and here's the budget that would take, so that when there's an opportunity, to allocate capital improvement dollars, we could be ready to go.
I think it's a good idea. My question is, we would identify the areas, make sure that they belong to the city, but we would not be providing any guidance or plans for what goes there.
Yeah, I think that would be too much too fast,
That's like
right?
beyond, yeah, okay,
Yeah, if we
okay,
just said,
just
we
being
put
sure.
it back, and you guys, you know, because in some cases, we might go, oh, this would be great. Say, well, you can't do that, the wall example, for
Right.
example, right? We're gonna move the wall, there's no point in putting money into that.
Right.
Don't waste your time right now.
Well, or we could come up with something that would require sprinklers, or I don't know, electricity, or something
Sure.
like that, where they would
Yeah.
go, no, we can't, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there's one particular, I don't know if we call this an area or not, but if you look at the periphery of Litchfield Park, or the old Litchfield Park, the walls anyway, right, on the east and the west boundary, you sort of have landscaping that goes across them. But the north and the south, there's really not much.
Mhm.
And if that's something that we might entertain too, is just having an item that, you know, when and if the money is available to improve the look of the city as you're approaching the city, which
Mhm.
kind of works with the signs we're talking about, that, oh, there's more appeal there from the outside of the city as well.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. And I imagine that staff has layout of the grounds,
Mhm.
grounds that are the city, in some sort of map format, or, yeah.
Well, and I have to say that, it could be something too that might work parallel with an Eagle Scout project, because that little park area on the corner of like Sagebrush and Villanueva, I ride my bike by there all the time. That thing is really nice.
They
Like,
did a
that
good
turned
job.
out better than I expected. And that was a combo effort between an Eagle Scout project and the city. So it was nothing before. It was
Yeah.
ugly.
There-
You live right there, you
yeah,
know.
I was right across from my house.
Yeah, and now it's really nice, and it's very simple, it's not elaborate. So, yeah, I think it's good. We can, you know, start a list and
Yeah, and it's,
see what happens going forward. And, you know, if an Eagle Scout comes and says, hey, I need something to do, and there's the money, then,
yeah, or in many cases, in that case, they procured much of the.
Yeah, yeah.
of the- yeah.
yeah. Good idea.
So is there, would it be possible then for us to get a map and understand what areas are in scope and what's not in
Yeah,
scope?
absolutely. We do have maps of the inner city and what's ours and what's not.
Okay,
Some areas get kind of tricky because of what are residents' responsibilities versus what we do as a city. So some of it kind of bleeds in, but some areas, they do, I agree, you know, a lot of these right-of-way areas need a little bit of improvement. I think it'd be great if RPG could come back and, you know, hey, we have a master plan, this is what we want to start looking to see if we can upgrade, add in, you know, potentially fix. You know, some of the biggest downfall with the inner wall city, irrigation. Irrigation is almost non-existent in a lot of these areas.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but Public Works, we usually, you know, hand water some of these orange trees
Yeah,
because irrigation is non-existent. And
right.
I wish in the past they would put it in and made it, you know, a little bit simpler for, you know, adding in the future, but currently we need to get a plan together to see if we can start adding in irrigation through these areas that don't currently have it. That's one of the biggest downfalls of adding landscaping. If there's no water, it's hard to get something to grow. And it's very time consuming if we're having staff out there doing it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think that's where we need to start, is finding areas, hey, this is kind of sparse. Can we start looking into getting these areas with irrigation, and then we'll go from there and start adding in these landscapes, you know, master plans essentially.
Is that part of existing maps that you have that shows which ones have irrigation, which have irrigation?
No, unfortunately, those maps, we don't have any of those maps that show where irrigation is working, where it's not. But it's not saying that we can't come back with you guys and say, hey, this is where it's not working, or this is where we have irrigation. It shouldn't be an issue.
and if we had this inventory of, hey, here's all the opportunities, and you could say, well, this is low-hanging fruit, and that's a massive project. If you want
Right.
water on the other side of that wall through private property, it's not happening,
Right.
right?
Right.
And bringing up Sagebrush Point, there's another common area just north of that that's actually part of city property. There's no irrigation there. How are plants growing there? It's beyond me. They've been there, they've It's welled from something somewhere. I've actually directed staff to go out there and take a look to see if there's actually any irrigation there. Well, come to find out, the resident that lives on the corner, their irrigation is feeding that, but it's city property. So it's those things that we've been running into that have been done in the past, which might have been a part of their property at one point, and the city has acquired it, and now we're at this point where nothing was blind eye turned, there we are. So those are the things that we got to try to fix as we go along. I have been working with staff trying to figure out these situations to make it a little bit simpler for us.
I know there's been times too, off of Loloma, where a few of the residents there made sure like certain plants along the path, that northern point of the path, were getting irrigation from the neighbors and stuff. So,
Yeah.
same kind of situation, I'm sure.
Right. And as time goes on, we're starting to figure out some of these areas that, hey, this is part of city property, why is it being fed by a resident situation? So we're usually in there cutting, adding in what we need to do. So that's time, it takes time, takes planning, we're trying to figure out how we're gonna get the water there. It's been a slow process, we've worked on it little by little, but there's still a lot to do with it.
There is a particular type of, are you thinking go like native landscaping, like,
I don't have a solution in mind so much as let's identify the areas of opportunity, and then we can work it together with staff on what's workable. And as a project, someone that wants to do a project comes in, like, all right, well, here's the 5 areas we could use help on.
But, I mean, I think our goal would be to keep it simple with low maintenance, low water. You know, we don't want to dump a ton on them and make it, I don't know, out of.
Yeah, and low maintenance and low water is essentially the way to go anymore, because we're getting to the stage 2 water restrictions. So we're gonna have state regulating, you know, what water we're using essentially over a certain amount of acreage, all that stuff. So as we go with this process and this plan, we really need to start thinking about what can we put in that's gonna look good, but conserve water at the same time. So.
Okay.
so for, you know, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Even hardscaping, I mean, areas that don't have irrigation to it, no reason that hardscaping couldn't make it look better.
Sure.
I mean, I think there's areas that have irrigation that could save the city some water and hardscape them.
Yeah.
Quite a few islands by where I'm at, Flora Vista and Acacia.
Yeah, that have grass.
So, transferring grass to hardscaping to save water. I know that some residents aren't big fans of losing the grass and going over to the hardscaping. So we might want to talk to the residents prior to, get like a feel for how they feel about that too. I'm kind of curious, hold on one second. I'm kind of curious. So like, for example, the island on the entrance off of the north side of Litchfield Road, we just lost a tree there.
The pine tree?
Yeah. So was that a sick pine tree, or was that just what we're talking about, where there was a low irrigation feed, or?
No, so that pine tree was sick. Obviously something got to it. We've lost plenty of pine trees through the city, you know, bark beetles. There's a ton of things that attack the pine tree. Essentially, they're not really supposed to be down in the valley. It's too hot. We don't have the climate. We don't have the soil conditions for them. Do they look great? Of course, everybody loves pine trees, but that's more for the northern country. I will let you guys know, with doing a conversion out of turf, removing turf that have trees lined in, especially the very large trees, once you start removing that turf and restricting the water, those trees become so adaptive on so much water consistently that you risk the chance of them dying off. So just keep that in mind when we do consider, hey, maybe we'll pitch this to, you know, do the xeriscape on these islands. If there are very large trees, there's a huge risk of losing those trees because you're putting them into a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
don't want to lose them.
What was the other thing you were
I was just gonna say, would we, as, I don't even know if you know the answer to this, but would we eventually have to be told, would the state tell you, you have to start cutting back and start doing these things? So, I mean, that might be a long-term plan that we have in place for when that does happen.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep that in consideration because, like I said, we're in stage 2, and once we get to that stage 3 restrictions, the state really steps in and says, control, reserve what you can. I know Litchfield Park's we're a green city. We like the grass, we like the bushes, the trees. It just brings Litchfield together with that, but we really need to consider in the future of water conservation.
So maybe I can probably make this motion correctly, but I think we can include in there by sparse areas that are exclusively grass, because there are a couple triangles, or rectangles that are sort of divided by path, and there's city property, and there's nothing but grass on one side of them. Right, so that's potentially an area that could, if it makes sense, convert. So, I'd like to make a motion that we ask staff to produce a map for us of the city properties that are in scope for us to look at, that each commissioner take that map, identify opportunities for the next reasonable meeting, next or thereafter, depending on when we get the map, and that we include in that areas that are sparse from just a pure grass perspective and maybe converted. Recommend a plan thereafter, and I think that's as far as we can take it now.
Does anybody have a second?
I will second, if somebody got the motion.
Yeah, sorry. That was very, I should have written that motion
Zoom
out.
has the motion.
Are there any other questions? All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Motion is passed. Thank you, Commissioner Gertz.
Yeah, thank you. Great suggestion.
2023 meeting schedule. Presenter Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. City clerks informed me that at the start of each year, or by the start of each calendar year, the commission should formally set their schedule for their regular meetings for the year. The meetings thus far have been taking place on the second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. And I'll leave it to your discretion if that works for you and you'd like to entertain a motion to continue that or change them.
Does anybody have any ideas on it, or maybe go straight to a motion to continue the second Thursday of every month?
I'm good to keep it the same.
Yeah, me too.
I think we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to have our meetings this year on the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m.
I'll second.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion is passed. So at a glance, this is kind of cool. Approval of city gateway signs. Presenter Kyle Ames, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Chairperson Taddy, members of the commission. In your packet, these are the preliminary concept package for city gateway signs. I know you guys are aware of the two bookends that we have off of Indian School on Litchfield and Dysart. The city staff has brought to our attention that on the outer skirts of the city, we currently do not have any city gateway signs. Just like our surrounding municipalities, Goodyear, Avondale, they put up gateway signs to let pedestrians or residents know that they've entered the city limits. So we reached out to our on-call contractor, EPS, to come up with a couple designs for these gateway signs to go ahead and place out and kind of complement the new city square that's coming in. The two signs, the bigger ones with the gabion walls are more for the, the inner wall area, and then the post styles would be on the outskirts to let everybody know that they're in City of Litchfield Park, city limits. So we're bringing it to you guys' attention and get your opinions, and if we need to add anything, what you guys think about it, and then we'll definitely take it back to the designers and make adjustments.
Where are they going?
What's that?
Where are these going?
So these ones are going to be pitched
Oh, I'm sorry.
on the map.
Oh, I see. So where the numbers 1 and 2 are related to the first one,
Okay.
which is on the left. Is that correct, Kyle? And then
Yes.
So the one that's on Dysart and the bypass is going away with the pink background?
So, so in the,
How do you feel about that?
we're bringing it to the commission to see if we could potentially replace these and replace with these newer styles with the gabion walls. I know obviously over time, the current ones have faded, kind of turned salmon pink. So our idea was to kind of complement the new city center coming in and kind of bring it in like the roundabouts that have gone on in next year. But we're not opposed to putting the gabion wall style signs on the inner walls and the post styles on the outskirts of the farthest parts of the city limits.
So is it up for discussion which signs we like, or is it set that they would be one place and the others another place?
We're up for discussion. Obviously, the ones that are on Litchfield and Indian School are fairly large signs.
Right.
So taking something large like that and putting a post sign
Yeah.
probably would be a big difference. That's why we're kind of trying to picture the gabion walls to go where the current signs are. Add one over by Camelback Park, and then the post signs will be on the farther outer skirts.
Can you talk to the history of this? Like, I feel like I remember city council talked about, along these lines, or suggested it. And there's been various discussion about signs, with the city center, and I'm wondering, like, how this ties in or relates, or if it's the same designer.
It's the same designer, EPS helped with the city center design. When it was asked of them to kind of come up with something that would still complement what was going in at the city center, this is what they presented with us. I think originally, the city center, some of the signs actually had the palm frond look originally. I'm not sure if council were leaning towards that sign. I think it might have changed a little bit. So this was more, let's place this back in, palm fronds, Litchfield palms and orange trees. I think with the post sign, they were going for, a lot of orange in it to replicate an orange.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like,
And these signs, the gabion wall signs, actually have the option to be lit, backlit.
Just gonna ask that.
So,
yeah.
obviously that comes with a cost. We gotta draw in electricity to be able to do that. I know we have an option of potentially doing solar. I don't know if you guys have noticed on, Avondale's gateway signs, they have solar panels on top of theirs, and that's how they light a lot of theirs up as well. So there's that option. So either backlit, draw light, kind of shine on this, the sign coming in. There's multiple options for these.
So may I ask a question? The back lighting, would it be the logo, or would it be the City of Litchfield Park, or would it be all of that?
I think it would be all of it.
Okay.
In the design, they didn't really place that in, but they did
Mhm.
mention that these are, have the potential to be lit.
So it's lit from the base, is that? Okay.
Yeah. Either on the top of the gabion wall, shining up the sign, or we could place the lights in front, shining up to the sign itself. And there's always the, option of potentially putting LED lights inside the sign to kind of do the backlighting, of either the logo, the City of Litchfield Park writing.
Can you still do solar power with LED lighting?
Yeah, because it's low voltage. LED lights are low voltage.
Do we know if there's power at the existing signs? I feel like
Are they currently lit
the
up?
current ones are lit up, or?
I don't think so.
There's street lights that might.
Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah, the
are.
lights,
Okay.
signs themselves aren't lit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking that would add a lot of cost to electricity just for, with solar, maybe not.
Well, solar would just be installation cost, right? And it would just be,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, there would be, a relatively large plate.
Aesthetically, I don't know how it would
Yeah.
look, but.
But, if you guys ever get a chance, Avondale, some of their gateway signs actually have solar panels on the top of theirs. The Chevron off of, where's that, McDowell and Dicehart area, there's a gateway sign, they got a massive solar plate on top of it.
what are your thoughts on the look of it? Does the solar plate bring the look of it, any direction you wouldn't want it to go, or?
Is it noticeable? It's noticeable, but obviously there's a cost factor too, so essentially I think the solar would be the cheaper route, not have to run electricity to it. Tapping in, who knows if there's even close electricity around. So that's all the things that we gotta take into consideration with this stuff as well, is essentially the cost. But aesthetically, I think there's ways that we could probably try to hide those so they're not so visible to, you know, people looking at them. Maybe even place them behind, but it's all direction of the sun as well.
Or incorporated into the design
Mhm.
versus, you know, having a solar panel just kind of plumped on the top of it.
Right. My concern would be if it's accessible for, you know, vandalism.
Yeah, and I think essentially we always run into the risk of vandalism. I mean, it's an inevitable, fortunately, I don't think we can ever stop it, but do we want to make it easier for people to vandalize it? No, but if we can make it a little bit more difficult for them to vandalize, of course.
Well, just put a little closer to the license plate reader thing. People will think they're on camera.
Sonny has a question too. Go ahead, sir.
No, it was just a comment by Chairman Taddy, and is that once you've had the solar little panel up there, it becomes kind of part of the sign, and people don't really notice that it's not like, oh my gosh, look at that thing sticks out. So it becomes part of the sign. I don't think it detracts from the sign.
I'll agree with you, and a lot of the school district I work for, buildings have a lot of parking lot solars. And I'll tell you, you really don't know, once you're used to them, it's just part of part of everything.
With the material, I think it's, you know, the color would probably be acrylic, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that, how easy is that to clean if that's spray paint?
It's actually easier to clean than, you know, raw steel.
Okay.
Any solvents, any, you know, hard cleaners, definitely remove it is a lot easier than it would be on steel. We use the acrylic fronts on the new fish and wildfowl signs at the lake.
Yeah.
We've had vandalism there a few times now since those have been placed, and they've been pretty easy to clean.
Yeah, they look good now, so, yeah.
Scratching wise, yes, they do scratch a lot easier, but.
Well, you can look at them from a distance, so you're
Right.
probably not gonna notice that. Okay, yeah, I just wanna make sure it wasn't gonna be like, oh, that's spray painted and that's
Right.
a big expense now. Okay.
So could our motion be to recommend that we go forward with these signs, or to recommend that city council consider accepting these signs without necessarily saying one source of electricity? Could we do
Yeah.
that right now?
Yeah, and I think you guys can vote on, you guys are liking the designs. It's more of the fact of, do we want to do solar or do we want to do hardwire lighting? Obviously, I think that, you know, go to council about, you know, cost, what's going to be potentially cheaper options. So if everybody's good with this design, we'll take it to council and take it back to the engineers, and see what we can get for a cost versus solar versus hardwire.
Perfect.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, before we jump to a motion, my opinion, I like option one with the rocks at the bottom and everything. If, you know, size and everything, I don't know about every location, but I would like to see more of those than just two personally. The second sign, it doesn't excite me. I don't like it at all. It's very skinny and, I don't like it, so like I said, if budget, you know, I don't know about if there was budget concerns and all that thing, but aesthetically, I like option one, and I would like to see it at all these locations personally.
Do the numbers correlate? I think they're two different, 1 and 2, right?
Yeah,
Like
so.
option 1 isn't proposed at location 1, and option 2 isn't proposed at location 2.
Right, but we're open to the options if.
Well, so that was the proposal though, was
Yes.
1 to 1,
Mhm.
2 to.
But we're open
Okay.
to be able to keep one certain sign through the whole city. Goodyear does the larger signs like these, and then Avondale does have some of the larger signs and then some of the smaller signs. City of Glendale does just the regular post signs. City of Phoenix does the regular post signs. So it's up to your guys' discretion of what you guys want to send to the council saying, hey, we want to stick with option one through the whole city.
But I think the reason for the skinny ones is the space that's there.
Right, that's something I'm not,
Yeah,
but I think on some of these spots, like on Dysart and Camelback, that shouldn't be the skinny sign
No,
out
that should be
there.
a big one.
You know, for example, and even coming in by the lake, I think there's room there on the shoulder by all the palm trees, and, you know, palm trees and the orange trees, for example, so. Again, I would almost want some more options. If we need to have a smaller sign, I would like to see some more options personally, because I don't like that sign at all.
may I ask back to the Dysart and Camelback, the location of this number 2 on this map, that almost shows it at the very corner of Dysart and Camelback, where they are eventually going to take that land and move the park out further, and if
The
that's
wall,
the case, definitely option should be number 1.
Right.
But if you're talking the entrance into Litchfield right there, that's just south of Camelback, then that could certainly,
Oh, on to Villeneuve.
right.
Is that that's on the corner though, right?
No,
The
this is up on the corner. I think.
Dysart and Camelback?
Yeah, so that's essentially the dirt lot on the corner.
Right, yeah.
So, I agree, I think, you know, design one with the gabbing wall should be up there, because it's a very large area. I think that sign would fit a lot better there. Park Avenue and Wigwam, they have it as, 2, that's a small area, obviously the post signs would fit a lot better there. Litchfield and just north of Camelback up by the Loma Hilltop, I think there's enough area to put option 1 as well. It's just, we're just getting ideas of what you guys think would be the best fit for each sign, or if you want to stick to one sign or have both signs in certain areas.
Regarding the size, it looks like this is, you know, a little over 2.5 feet wide with 3-inch letters.
I think it's, at the bottom it's 3.5.
3.5.
The top is 2 something, yeah. Is that what you're looking at?
You know, the letters are 3-inch and 4-inch tall letters, whereas I would think these letters on the sign right here are at least 6, 8, 10, and the sign's gotta be, if we're looking at replacing, you know, this sign, I feel like this is small,
Yeah.
narrow, and the letters
Significantly
are,
that whole.
I mean, 3 inches is pretty small. It's most, you know, numbers on buildings that are 6 or 8 inches. I can't imagine that 3 inches would look right.
So maybe less palm and more text, you know, larger.
Fill the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
larger in size.
I'd say, I mean, depending on the space, I mean, maybe there's 2 different options, where one is the small one, and then one that's wider for the wider.
For those big
for the
corner
big
ones,
areas,
yeah.
I guess something comparable to the existing signage in size. Unless there's a reason to make it smaller, I guess.
Do we have any idea what the cost is for just to upscale everything on the first option?
I do not. We have not received the cost, on these designs. This was just a preliminary design, drawing. So we have not received any cost of what these are actually gonna run.
Did you receive multiple, and then you decided to do one? I'm with you on option 2. I think they mailed it in on that one. I don't know what you can do with a tall, skinny sign, but I think they could do more than what they have given you here.
Yeah, I think, 'cause what is it, it's 11 inches wide at the rectangle, the main rectangle?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's like a sheet of paper. I mean, I get that they're going, maybe it was requested they make a small sign like that, but I don't think there's any location where it has to be that small, in my opinion.
I was gonna say almost exactly the same thing you said in terms of the sign B. Like, it looks to me like a bus stop sign. But I do worry about the letters. Like, those letters are gonna get broken off if they're sort of attached there. That's gonna be the first thing to go. So I'm not a fan of B. I like A. I would agree larger. And then if we're going to do you know, and I know this is a bit premature, but the angle kind of matters, like it implies something. Like an angle at a corner implies that, like if this is the sheet and the angle, okay, I'm just looking at the right sign. If there's a road that runs in the middle of these two pieces of paper, and I put a sign that goes like this, it implies this is Litchfield Park. If I put it like this, it implies this is Litchfield Park. I think we have a lot of those scenarios here to where if we get these signs and we angle it the wrong way here, it sort of implies you're in Litchfield Park, right? It's like maybe this angle, straight angle, odd at an angle.
Like this is,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that, those are angled that way.
At that corner you were talking about here, Park and Wigwam, there is a big, monument sign for that subdivision.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Right?
yeah.
That's right.
Sunrise, well, and they just redid it recently, I think.
Yeah, they resurfaced it and repainted it, yeah.
That could be a place where one of the smaller signs.
They would need a
makes
smaller
sense,
sign,
you know,
yeah.
it's not conflicting, even with the design, I'd probably make sure it kind of fits in with.
And although this is very basic, this Welcome to Phoenix sign, it would get your attention. I mean, even if that was our, not to try to copy them, but, I think a blend between that one and the top right one, it's, the tall iron, what city is that? Dublin.
Well, and I'd be curious too to know the size of the city of Goodyear signs, you know, because I see those and they're noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't miss them. So I'd be curious to see the dimensions on those.
Yeah, that's cool.
But,
More of a piece of art, you know?
Yeah.
More sculpture.
Yeah, and I think Goodyear's, it's usually like going down the road, there's a Goodyear one, like on the right-hand side. Where we have some of those locations, but I agree that the big corners should be a bigger sign if we're able to.
so maybe we do a smaller version and a bigger version
Of option one, you mean?
of option one?
So the larger areas, the bigger signs,
Mhm.
smaller areas,
Yeah, like
Same.
more prominent corners.
design concept, but on a smaller scale.
I don't know.
Yeah?
I think that sounds
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
I do like that
uniformity, I mean, because
Continuity,
we had
yeah.
talked, and we had talked about that, you know, with the square and everything
Mhm.
too, that if we're gonna do this, we shouldn't have bits and pieces of stuff,
Yeah.
signage.
Consistency.
Regarding the base, the gabion
Yeah.
base, is that like with the metal chain kind of stuff that goes around it? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like metal rebar,
Okay.
It's like in the
rods.
roundabout.
Yeah, like, it's the same as the,
Same as in the roundabout.
In the roundabout,
Yeah.
okay.
And is that incorporated into the city center, like entrances? I know it's in the roundabout, but do we know if that same material's in other parts of the city?
I'm not sure if council has settled on certain signage. I know they settled on the roundabouts having the gabion walls, but as for the signs, I'm not sure. I don't think they've nailed down certain signs yet. I would assume they were try to keep it uniform, so something of that nature, but we'll see what council decides on for those signs.
I would imagine if council adopts these signs, right, they'd probably want consistency too, through the, yeah.
Timing wise, do we have time to go back and get more designs, or is this something that council's looking to move on?
No, we definitely have more time to come back and
Okay.
get some more designs. We can always adjust the ones we currently have, or if you guys have some more ideas that maybe you would like to see or added, I can definitely take this back to EPS group, give them your guys' comments, and see what they come up with.
Excuse me. I wonder if the base would make sense in all of the locations. Like, just again, thinking about the Park and Wigwam corner, there's not any rocks like that around there, the, like, red, how they refinished that one. It'd probably look kind of funny to have that there. And I don't know the solution, on that out there. Maybe even on the other corners where it's like the stucco wall. that might make sense, I guess.
Yeah, Park Avenue and Wigwam is kind of iffy because half of it is the city of Litchfield Park, half of it is Goodyear's. The intersection on, Park Avenue and Wigwam, actually belongs to the city of Goodyear. Our setbacks are about 20 feet from, north of Wigwam on Park Ave. So obviously, we would have to place our sign on our city limits, so that could be a setback of 25 feet off that intersection. And I agree, with Commissioner Faith, it might look a little weird having a large sign next to the village sign,
Yeah.
monument front, so there might be a potential option of coming up with something smaller that would just stating, hey, you're in the city of Litchfield Park.
In that case, I could see option 2 making sense there, although I'm not sure I feel about the welcome to letters kind of popping off the top.
Well, I will say, is that not right across the street from Millennium High School,
Mhm.
where the kids are gonna stand at that corner? And I'd be careful with that whole entrance.
It might just be the way it's printed, but as I look at all the other signs, it's very low contrast on the letters. So, and maybe in real life, it isn't, it is high contrast, but I just can't tell here, but my worry on, you look at any of these other signs and it's light on dark, dark on light, and this is almost dark on dark. Again, it could just be the way it's printed, but is that gonna reduce the visibility of,
Is that option 1?
oh, yeah, option 1.
Is that a result of our city colors and our city,
The logo.
yeah, 'cause they tend to have a little bit of light, but like a lot of dark around the outside?
It's just gonna be hard to tell,
Those three.
unless you increase the contrast, you can't really, I have bad eyes, right? But from here, I can't read that. I can read all the other ones.
Is it not cut out and backlit? On the post, it says that it's cut out. And I guess like.
Where does it say that on the, oh, I'm sorry, on the photo?
On the post.
Oh, on the
So the
post.
actual
Yeah,
symbol
I don't know
is,
about the other one, though.
It says internally illuminated
Letters, right?
channel letters,
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what that
So those
is.
would be like bright blue, really?
green.
Green. The letters?
Which one?
Are you colorblind?
No, I didn't.
Which one?
The letters.
Option 1?
The letters on option 1.
no,
They
option
look
two.
gray.
Like
I
a
think
dark
they're
gray.
like didn't it say aluminum?
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
the
but
reverse?
I don't know.
Color
Gray
F.
is a gray.
Color F.
Color F, so
Oh.
F's over here.
It's
I
like
do not.
gray on
I'm not sure
black,
about that.
gray on.
Powder coated brushed aluminum.
Yeah.
Color F is aluminum, that's
Yeah.
the color.
Oh,
And
thank
channel.
you. Yeah.
Like gray on a
Yeah.
brown.
Gray on brown.
So
Yeah, you're right.
Sunny had something to add, go ahead, Sunny.
Like silver or white or something.
Gotta make sure, okay. You guys have some fantastic suggestions and ideas on these, and I think there actually was a committee outside of any of the commissions that was put together to come up with signage, not only for the city, but for, the park and everything else that we're gonna be doing. And I think what you've done is say, hey, I really like the larger sign, and I'd even like it larger, but I would say, like Kyle said, pass on your comments, letting them know that you like what you see, but you'd like to see it more enhanced, you'd like to see it bigger, whatever it may be. And I agree with you guys on that little sign. I'm not sure, that reminds me of the signs like you approach a pathway and it tells you that you can walk on it or ride a bike on it or whatever. But I think you've got a lot of great points, and I think that's what ESP, the people that did it were looking for is your comments on what you like. And of course, not to go back and say, well, we want to see more options. I think you've got some good ones here, and I would pass on that information and see what they come back with.
Do we need a motion for that, Sunny, or can we simply create a list of recommendations to take back?
Well, what does your agenda say?
Information action.
Information action.
Okay, well, you could make a motion in the form of to ask Kyle as staff to take back your comment And I know Tricia's been taking notes and it's being recorded, and so all the comments would be there. So that could be the form of a motion.
Copy that.
Well,
Does anybody have any more comments before we go ahead?
I think there needs to be coordination between these signs, some sort of tie-in with these signs and city square signs.
Well, I will say I was on that marketing
ya?
committee, and these look nothing like what they were proposing then.
Oh, boy.
Well, is that just me, or does anybody else?
I don't know if they wanted those to stand out, like, you're at city center, this is city center,
Right.
not the gateway into Litchfield.
Well, I'm not saying they need to be like the same or a bigger, square, taller version of these, but I just feel like there needs to be some element, maybe it's the palms, like Kyle said, that carries through between these and what's going on at the square.
Mhm.
Well, at the bare
Something.
minimum, we would have our city.
We'd have the logo.
You're right.
Yeah, for sure
Right.
there'd be the logo, but then maybe, I don't know.
Perhaps part of our recommendations is to, and we mentioned this, right, to make the logo and the letters kind of
Pop
stand
one.
out a bit more, pop a bit more, if you will.
Perhaps when you go back, you can ask them to give us examples of what they're thinking for city center signs, and then maybe another idea in mind for these. In looking at this again, Christoph's right, it's very dark. It's very like monotone. And I think there's more, and lack of a better term, more fluff than details. Like, there's, your eyes go to the palm trees and the stones and not the city of Litchfield.
Most plain thing on there, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll say this, though, like, almost like to play devil's advocate, if it were lit up at night, it may have a completely different look to it.
True.
Based on how the lighting,
Mhm.
right? Without exactly seeing a rendering of that, it's hard to say how much it would pop at night versus, or even during the day, even in like a really bright sun, how,
Mhm.
you know, because if it's kind of reflective, like an aluminum paint or an acrylic, that might add to it.
Well, like, I think these signs here, they don't need to be lit up for you to see.
And what you said earlier was a really good point. These strike me as such a work of art.
Mhm.
And, you know, we could always play with the different color options, you know, and, the palms not being the, what is it, color E, the darker color, we could always request the palms be, you know, the hunter green color of palms. Maybe it'll make it pop a little bit more.
Mhm.
Maybe even be the lettering, the city of Litchfield Park being orange, you know.
That's what I was thinking. I think.
Definitely orange.
Yeah.
It's the tie-in to everything, I think.
So we can definitely play with the color scheme. I can bring it back to them and say, hey, you know, would you be able to change the color schematics on these signs, this to this, this to this, and see what it looks like?
I think that's a great plan.
Yeah.
I think we need a motion for that.
I'd add, I really like your point about, well, I could see our logo doesn't seem like the focal point, whereas, you know, it's a pretty cool logo, but it is overshadowed by the palms. And like you were talking about on these other signs, like, there's probably a really great, simple sign idea that just has the logo, the city name.
Mhm.
I personally like the palms, but I think they had a good design element that makes it not just a plain sign, but.
So our motion would be, and I'm not making it, would be to come up with another design, improve this one with more color, and come up with a bigger version.
I don't think we have to get that specific.
We don't have to get that specific?
I think we can say to take our notes and feedback that we've discussed and.
Give it back to the designers
Yeah.
and let them see what they come back with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe to make it easy for whomever's listening to this later, we can enumerate those now. As a larger sign, more contrast on the lettering, potentially orange. Potentially make the palm fronds, green,
Larger lettering.
larger lettering. and then be complementary with what's being done in city center. Not necessarily the same, but,
Yeah.
so it doesn't feel like
Some
these
high-
are two completely different
Yeah.
things.
So when you say illuminate, you mean light up and then
No, I
also
said
make
higher
it-
contrast, but ideally, lighted signs of some nature, yeah.
And higher contrast.
Yes.
So that's our motion.
So it'd be a motion to direct staff to
Go
take those
To,
considerations back to EPS
Yeah.
and see if it can be reworked, be brought back to you all.
So we've practiced that motion really well.
anybody else wanna try it?
I think we're ready for somebody
I'm ready to second it.
So moved.
Well, wait, let's do it officially now. So who wants to make the motion?
Can we do so moved?
I think you're probably good with so moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's passed.
Whew.
Doozy.
Thank you for that, sir.
Good job.
Staff reports, Community and Recreation Services monthly report. Presenter Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. You have the reports in your agenda. I'll just quickly share a couple things since it's been a while since we've met. Thank you to those that came out to the Christmas in the Park event. I think it went well, and in particular, thanks to Vice Chair Phillips for volunteering to help with the parade once again. It was much needed and much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. In terms of what's going on at the rec, aquatics obviously is on hiatus at the moment. They continue to maintain the pool. Preschool was off for a couple weeks for winter break. They're back in session and happily working on art appreciation at the moment, so that's always fun. Community services, we did have the holiday home decorating contest and awarded winners in 4 categories this year. They were all quite appreciative and anxious to get their signs, which was nice because some years people don't care that much whether they get the formal award, which is ironic since they enter the competition. But this year, all of the winners were very excited to have their signs and get their $100 cash prizes, so that was fun to see. And I think it helped that Chuck Emmert, who's been doing a lot of our social media for the city page, went out and videoed some of those homes to help share that. So that was nice. In terms of sports, we've got a ton going on, so I will happily defer to Pat on that and let him update you.
Thank you. So we are currently moving into week 2 of our winter season. We ended up having 403 kids again, like we did last year, so another great basketball season. We're about a week into our spring registration as well, and we already have about 210 total kids for spring, so we're excited for those numbers because at this time last year we had 128 or so. So big intake at least this year to start the season. And then the 23 Kiwanis Litchfield Park Run registration is open, and we currently have 116 runners registered for that. That's going to be February 25th. So the numbers are doing good there as well, and we still have some time to get some more signed up before that. So.
And if anybody is interested in volunteering to help with the run,
Yep.
We would gladly take that assistance as well. I know some of you have helped with the youth triathlon and other events, so we could use some good people on board with that. In terms of special events, this weekend is the Litchfield Park Gathering, our annual Native American Festival. So I hope that if you guys have the opportunity, you can come out and join us. It's a really beautiful festival. More than 100 artists will be out there. We'll have the entertainment, food, including fry bread and Navajo burgers. So it should be fun, and fingers crossed that the rain holds out on Sunday. We've also got a free concert coming up, our Arts in the Park concert series on the 22nd. Marcus Tinsley is a new artist that's coming out, and he was actually a participant on American Idol, so that should be fun to have. And we've got, in addition to the run, we've got the Trout Derby coming up at the end of January on the 28th. The spaces to participate in the morning session for competing for trophies are completely sold out. And the afternoon session, which is the recreational session, I think we are at about 125 at the moment, spaces sold. So there is a ton of interest in being out there for the fishing derby. It's great to see the community remain involved and be part of sports and events and programming. So we're very happy with how things are going this year. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions of us. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, if it's not like one of your itemized things?
Is it part of my report?
No, never mind then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't think you can.
I don't think I
That's
can
a
either.
negative.
That's what I thought.
Thank you. Public Works Monthly Report. Presenter Kyle Ames, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Chairperson Patty. Not a whole lot that was going on in the month of December. West Coast Arborists, our tree contractor, officially started the hilltop cleanup. It's a very large project, long overdue, but we're anticipating it takes about 2.5 months to complete that. They're making great progress up there. I've been monitoring it, a few times a week, so they're moving along. Hopefully we get on track and go ahead and complete this as quick as possible. Also, our tree contractors started the orange picking this week. They are going to still offer those services to residents with a price increase, a rate increase for their services. So it's on the website. I don't know off the top of my head the cost for residents, but I know it's raised a little bit. And then graffiti. We've had quite a few incidents with graffiti in the tunnels and throughout the city. I don't know if you guys have noticed that there's a big spike. I don't know if, kids being bored, whatever it may be. So if you guys do notice when you're out and about, notice any graffiti that we haven't noticed yet, please inform us so we can get it addressed. PD is working on a lot of this investigations, trying to find out what's going on, where this is coming from. It's starting to become repetitive for the same people. So,
So those must mean something.
Mm-hmm.
and that is it. I will be happy to answer any questions.
I just would like to say West Coast Arborists, they do a great job. I've had them do my trees at my house and all my neighbors, and they were all very pleased, so.
So a while back, it was offered that maybe we could have a tour of the Hilltop property at one point or another. Are we getting pretty close to that? I have off on Monday.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to take you guys up there, and we can do a tour. We can set a date and check the property out, potentially go inside the house if you guys want to see.
I'd be way into that. So, are you guys working on Monday?
Nope. We will not be here.
I think you'd probably want to get a member of the Historical
I would,
Society.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do that too.
They just came
Yeah.
and spoke. We had them speak to the women's ladies group today.
Right on.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool history up there.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Are there still a lot of snakes?
Not currently. In wintertime, they become
They are.
pretty
Okay.
dormant, but there is a lot of snakes.
Yep.
I remember a few years ago when we did a small cleanup up there, I think killed 7 of them,
Oh my, what kinds?
rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've been left alone a long time.
Yeah.
The peacocks were scarier back in the day.
So what do you bring up there to kill a rattlesnake?
Shovels.
Shovels.
Cat.
Big cat.
What's the next step after the cleanup is done?
For the hilltop?
Yeah.
The Historical Society is still raising their funds to essentially refurbish it, turn it into what they need to do. I know the Historical Society was up there Tuesday, doing a walk around, reevaluating what needs to be done, what's going on. We've actually had, speaking on the vandalism as well, we're having a lot of vandalism up there again.
Really?
So,
Is it just Christmas break, or is it outside of the?
I just think it's kids being bored.
Mm.
So, I hate to see it, you know, because that's very historical up there. It's something that's, you know, been there for a long time, and PD's working on it very hard.
Mm.
Because they gotta be walking up there, right? I mean, you're not driving a car up there and not being noticed.
There you are.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Again. Commissioners report on current events. Commissioner Colbert.
Attended Christmas in the Park with my family. That was a good event, I thought. So, nice work on Christmas in the Park. That's all I've got to report.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chairperson, Andy?
I'm gonna work my question in here.
Oh.
Pickleball is becoming so popular. I'm wondering if maybe sometime we could discuss that topic and see if it's possible at Scout Park and.
Of course we can, for sure.
That's all I have.
But we can't discuss it now.
No,
Yeah, no.
I know.
We can put it on the agenda now, right? This is the time
I
to
don't know.
add things to the next month's agenda.
No,
No? Okay.
no.
No.
But we could definitely add it on there prior to the next meeting, for sure. Commissioner Faith?
Well, I'd say you and your guys are doing a great job keeping on top of the graffiti. I told you about one spot, and within a few hours it was gone. I don't know if maybe you'd taken care of it already, before I told you, but it was very fast. I think that's great you guys stay on top of it. That's all I got.
Also enjoyed Christmas in the Park, great job. And I'm also interested in talking about that topic.
I would also be interested in that topic. However, I do have something to say, for Public Works. There is an island on Ora Vista, I'm sure you know of it, that the valves stick open. There was one time I left my house at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I came back at 2, and they never shut off. And then I didn't notice it again. I just figured they came back on, and then I didn't notice it again until about 4 or 5. So there's no, like, hotline number to call anyone, which I can understand because you guys are, it's a weekend, you're not working. But is there some way that the residents could get in touch with somebody?
Yes, so we do have on-call staff. So for anything after hours, Public Works does have an on-call staff. They alternate every week. So if we get calls in about certain situations, 90% of the time it goes to PD. They call the non-emergency hotline. PD has my direct line. They contact me saying, hey, we had a report, there's a stuck valve. Somebody smacked a tree, it's laying in the road, whatever it may be. So that's the process we've been doing. I think I agree, I think maybe we should put something on there that, hey, this is the number that could be called for after hours of certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have had the calls of, hey, we live on the county side of Litchfield, how can I get, well, you gotta contact county, that's not part of Litchfield Park. So people don't understand that some areas
Right.
are on the county side, so it becomes something more than just, actual residents of the city of Litchfield Park. So we need to figure out a system where we can just have a direct line for residents saying, hey, this is who you can call for after-hour emergencies.
Well, I know.
Not to cut you off, but
I
I
know.
think we're getting into that area where.
I will add something for next month, because I have an idea for you.
Sorry
Anyway,
about
we
that.
turned the valve off ourselves, and then it came back on the next day. It's good stuff.
Okay.
Turns off again. Water.
So, again, the Christmas was great. I love the idea of having commentators in the back of a pickup truck. It reminded me of Philadelphia. I think that's something we do there quite frequently. But it was all joking aside, what a great event. I got to hang out with Pat for a little bit. lost my family for a good hour, which is probably what their intent was, to hit the beach somewhere and go have fun. But, that, and just a huge compliment to how nice everything looks and how great care goes into everything that the city does. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You guys aren't gonna believe this.
You need a
Are we
motion?
done?
That's it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Does anybody have any other all in favor? We're adjourned.
All right, well done.
Thank you, everybody.
Good use of the gavel.
Nice job.
It took a lot of self-control to not.
Sonny, I hope you
What
get
happened
better
near me?
soon.
Keep
You
getting
too.
better.
Working on it. Thanks.